To our next session with the title, What Do Buyers Want? I have the pleasure to introduce the discussing panel here and have to say that one of the people, Torbjorn Rolander, is still lost somewhere in the halls, but he should arrive within some minutes, I think. Next to me is Richard Siddle, an award-winning editor and business consultant with over 25 years experience working across a number of fields, including drinks, hospitality, computing, grocery retail, convenience, and travel. In 2006, he set up the B2B digital editorial platform, The Buyer Net, which he represents, aimed at bringing drinks producers and buyers together from all over the world with his business partner, Peter Dean. Richard will moderate the discussion here. We have in the middle my dear friend Inge Straetmans. She studied biochemistry with a specialization in wine, full career in wine. Inge worked as a buyer for 3 supermarket chains in Belgium and became self-employed in 2016. Welcome. As a broker in bulk wines. She selects wines from South Africa, Chile, France, and Spain, and is a member of various tasting committees in international wine competitions, such as Concours Mondial de Bruxelles, for example, where we met first time some years ago already. Mauro Bricolo, on the right, from your side on the left, comes in here with quite an unusual career, I would say. After his diploma in 1996, he spent the following 3 years as a semi-professional cyclist and then started working in the wine industry. During the last 23 years, he had an own import distribution. He has been a wine buyer and selector for the Chinese market, a buyer for a big wine shop in Milan, and the last 6 years he spent as the Italian country manager at Vivino app, where he started the wine selection and sales. Recently, he opened his own business importing champagne and selling wines. And last but not least, Torbjorn Rolander also is in the wine business for more than 20 years. He started as a salesperson at one of the Systembolaget stores in Sweden in the 90s. In 2004, Torbjorn started his own business, which he kept for 4 years before joining the largest wine importing group in Sweden at that time. Since 2013, Torbjorn holds a position as brand manager and business developer, own brands at Enjoy Wines and Spirits. I think that's enough. Richard, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Hopefully you can hear me. Can you hear me at the back? Yep, okay, good. Well, thanks for the introduction, Thomas. Yeah, but perhaps we ought to have really held this debate at 10 o'clock yesterday morning, really, considering everyone's here to try and understand what buyers want. That's what every trade fair is all about. But anyway, thanks a lot for your time today, and thanks for all our panel, and thanks for making it, Thomas. To everyone, thank you. As I say, we're all trade fairs need 2 partners to play, as it were. You need producers and the suppliers, and you need buyers to buy their wines. And how buyers decide what wines to buy is clearly very personal to their own businesses and to their individuals. But also there are some sort of key criteria and some common factors that all buyers will look for in producers, and that's what we want to try and today is to focus in on what are those individual criteria, but also what are the common goals that all buyers look for. I think it's 2019. I think many people may not have been back to the bulk wine fair since 2019 and before COVID, and obviously a lot has changed in those 3 years, not only personally but from a point of view of the industry. And I think just in my own personal conversations with people during the last 2 days, it seems there is quite a different dynamic taking place between producers and buyers, and what buyers are expecting. Against the backdrop of the supply chain issues, the increases in energy and the problems with dry good costs, there are a lot more factors at play than literally just tasting some wine and deciding whether or not you like the wine at that price. So again, that's what we want to try and explore some of those areas as well. As Thomas said, I started the magazine or a website called The Buyer, which just make it a bit embarrassing sometimes when I go onto someone's stand and it says The Buyer. And producers look at me like I'm, who are you? Particularly because I'm not actually buying any wine either. It makes it even more confusing. But we started The Buyer with the intention of actually trying to do what today is all about, and that's connect wine producers with buyers and try and help both sides understand their needs and what they're looking for. And that's what we try and do through the website. So it's a pleasure to be able to host today's session. Thomas gave a short introduction to the panel, but I thought it'd be quite good if perhaps if I ask each of the panelists just to give some background to themselves as buyers and their own businesses, and in particular why you're keen to take part in today's session. So I know you've only literally just sat down, but can I come to you first? And I think we have to I think we just have 2 microphones. I think yeah.
Okay. This is okay. Yep. Okay. Yeah, buying wine is not just about buying wine, it's so much more. And actually the wine part is the easy part of it. And I really looking forward to discuss anything but just the wine part. Yeah.
Your business?
My business is, we at Enjoy Wine and Spirits, we both work with agency brands and our own brands. Our own brands is mainly bulk, mainly from Europe at the moment. Turnover around 9 million liters a year. And there's a lot of important parts about this, of continuously being able to deliver the right quality, not only about the wine, it's dry goods, it's quality during the whole value chain.
Hello, my name is Inge Straetmans. I'm a wine broker since 6 years, but like Thomas already said, I've been a wine buyer for several supermarkets in Belgium. Now I'm a broker, but mostly in bulk wines. So 90% of my business is in bulk wines. And why I come to this fair, because this is, the whole world is together. It's very easy to taste, very quickly get to know new suppliers, meet suppliers that we already know. I think it's a very convenient fair for me, and it's not far from where I live, so.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I spent the last 6 years of my career buying wine, a lot of wines for one of the biggest e-commerce in the world. So I think I understood, I had the chance to understand very well what was important for a buyer. So what was important for me, that was mostly to get, to have most of the things ready. So that was really important for me. So don't waste time, as I was alone doing this for a lot of others shops in the world. Now, from May, I'm doing exactly the opposite. So I'm helping these buyers, and I had a great experience. So I'm now using this experience to give them everything ready. All of the stuff has to be really efficient, and I think this is the most important thing for the buyers. One thing that I wanted to tell is that it's strange because my colleague here said before that to be a buyer is not only a matter of choose the right wine and a matter of money or efficiency, but also trust. and that's super important, a super important team. But what I found out is also that a lot of companies that are working in the wine industry don't looking for people that are coming for the wine industry, and this is a point that is really strange for me, in particular in the e-commerce field.
So they're not looking for people from the wine industry, no?
No, they are not coming from the wine industry, so I think this is a bad point.
Okay,
For
well,
them.
perhaps we'll explore that a little bit more. Just sort of kicking off at some of the challenges that a buyer has. So when you're coming to a fair like this, which is technically the biggest bulk wine fair in the world, and there's millions of litres of wine available potentially to buy, what can you give us an indication of some of the homework that you do before you come, and some of the decisions that you make in terms of how you decide which of the many stands you're going to go and concentrate on? Did you? Okay. Well, before you come to a fair like the bulk wine fair, as a buyer, what are the decisions that you have to make, or how do you decide who you're going to go and see, and some of the homework, the preparation that you make before you come to a fair like this?
Yeah, I think I look, mostly on the new trends, at the end. So the wine industry is a fashion, so everything is changing a lot also with the taste of the people, or better with the, it's more a matter of fashion than taste. And there are also a lot of other stuff that are not affected by fashion, of course, so the prices of the glasses and all of this stuff. But I think that what I was looking for were for the new trends. So I think that in this particular period that we are facing, it is important to find different kind of wines. I mean, in example, champagne, there is no more wine, or it's really expensive today, or better the Prosecco, that there is wine, but it is increasing a lot the price. So it's important today to find something similar to the Prosecco, but not Prosecco. And I'm selling a lot of spumante in Italy to the supermarkets that is out of the area of Prosecco, but the quality has to be high, but the price is lower because of that. So this is key also today, and I'm looking for this.
So you're looking at some of the consumer trends and the sales trends, and then picking out the producers here that can meet those trends. Really, that's the key thing for you.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Inge, can I ask you what's your preparation that you make before coming to the bulk wine fair?
I'm always looking for what my clients need, because I'm not a buyer right now, so I look for what they need, and maybe new suppliers, maybe new assemblages, new possibilities. But I'm always work à la tête du client. So.
But when you were a buyer, when you were at Delhaize,
Yes.
or what would you come to a fair like this just to go and see the suppliers you already work with, or do you see this as an opportunity to go and taste lots of wines and explore?
Oh, I always thought that the supplier had to come to my office, and that I would come here to see new suppliers. Of course, you meet them and you say hi, but if you come here as a buyer from a supermarket, if you visit all your suppliers here, then you're finished. You haven't seen anything new anymore. That's not the idea of coming to a fair. I would not make any appointments either, because in a fair you're either too late or too early, and it's never easy.
You don't make appointments, no?
No, very few.
Really?
Very few, yeah.
All right. Interesting. Okay. Yourself?
Yeah, we operate on very different markets. Me, I'm part of the monopoly market in Sweden. We sell directly to restaurants, but the main business is to the monopoly-owned retail stores. It's a complicated process, and for me, when I come here, and what I do before I come here is to study what the monopoly wants now for the future for next year. I also do some analysis, statistics, white spots, what's on the shelf, what's not on the shelf. Do we have any white spots for possible bulk wine that can go through the tender process in Sweden? And based on that, I have on my agenda, I set up some meetings, I pinpoint some of the suppliers that are exhibit here, and then we start a discussion. And you will never know in beforehand if there's going to be business or not. Yeah.
Can I just look at a bit more what we might call like the challenges that you feel you face as a buyer? I mean, do you think the challenges that you face as a buyer are always the same, or do they change from year to year? And in particular, looking at where the wine market was before COVID, and then now looking at the market now, would you say that as a buyer, the challenges and the responsibilities on a buyer have changed in that time?
It's getting a little bit more complicated, because on my market, it's not only about the wine, it's about packaging, it's about sustainability. Many times, not only towards the monopoly, but also the big hotel and restaurant chains. They are more and more asking for the sustainability part, and what kind of certificates does the supplier have? And that is getting more and more important, and that is also starting to I start to see this trend also, which is super nice. Many of the big bulk wine suppliers here, they're starting to think about it. They're starting to get their certifications, and we're not there yet, but it's looking good.
Interesting. Can I ask you the same question in terms of the challenges that you think, you know, from your own perspective?
Yeah.
Have they changed, or are they the same as they were before, or do you think there's more?
Changed really a lot. At what time I was the buyer of Vivino, so everything was booming. Everything was really easy to get, because there was a big amount of wine available at the best prices, because the retail was closed, so everything was good in that period. Then after the pandemic period, everything changed, of course. So sales went down, and wines were not, the availability of the wines were not exactly the same of before. So we had to reset a lot, and in a different way compared to before the pandemic, no? Of course, also. Regarding the supermarkets, today is really challenging. Supermarkets, you know, buy a lot, and they program year per year. Today is not easy to program because of the availability, first of all, but in particular because of the prices. And that's the really challenge today. And as a seller, it's really important for me to let the buyer understand how it works behind, no, the curtain, and trying to be the best connection between the wineries and him, no, and the buyers, no, of the supermarkets. It's, yeah, difficult.
Yeah, and do you think that, we've always said the importance of relationships. Everyone talks about the wine industry having strong relationships, but do you think, because it's such a challenging time, that those relationships, well, I'll ask you, how do you think those relationships are changing? Do you think people are becoming more flexible, more understanding, or are they becoming tougher?
Yeah. At the beginning, they were a bit restrict, no? But now they really understand, because when the first seller go there and the second, the third, and so on, everyone is telling exactly the same thing. So they must be flexible, otherwise you stop to buy. So, yeah.
Inge, can I ask you the same?
Yes. Well, we see that sales are down incredibly in supermarkets, and buyers have still stocks from last year. So they overgo with a bulk. They will take longer to take everything in, and what is going to be the case now is that a buyer is not going to buy anymore for a whole year. He might maybe divide it in 2 or maybe in 3, but this means for a seller, you have to negotiate 3 times because prices are going to change, and there is a lot of stock in the market.
But that's quite a fundamental change, isn't it? Because I mean, from what I understand, it's always been the case that people talk about having year-long contracts, and the supermarkets in particular. You have your preferred partner, and then you agree a price, and the price normally goes down rather than up. So, I mean, that's quite a fundamental. I mean, I've been hearing that on the trading floor as well. That people are now, the price of glass went up by 30% in March. It's going up by another 40% now. So, well, if you can explore that a bit more.
Well, not explain more, but it might be that the buyer is going to divide his needs in 3 times, and he doesn't want to be too late to pick up his goods, because now the wine that is now still coming over is a little bit over time. Sometimes it needs to be refreshed, and not all suppliers are willing to do that.
So does that mean that the balance of power is turning a little bit more towards the producer, that they can be more selective about which buyers they work with?
I would say so, yes. But here's also what you talked about, trust, and what kind of confidence you, as a buyer, give the supplier, and the supplier gives you back. And that is getting more and more important, I believe.
Yeah, because...
Oh, sorry, yeah. Where were I? Sorry.
Just a bit more detail about how that is.
Because the supplier has more power than the buyer today, exactly, because he has much more options than before to choose the one that, or a handful that he believes are the most trustworthy, stable, and when it comes to price, also stable. Yeah. Everyone wants as long-term as possible contracts, but you also have to have the flexibility anytime. I mean, we see what happened last year. You were talking about the glass prices. We were talking about supply of glasses. There's no some shapes, glass shapes. You can't find them, and then you have to have this flexibility between the supplier and the buyer to be very solution focused.
So does that equally put more pressure on the producer to think of more solutions for their buyer? So rather than just say, here's my wine at this price, do they also need to be saying, and we have these arrangements with couriers or logistics, or do they need to be thinking more about other parts of the supply chain as well, for the producer point of view?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. The only thing a buyer really wants is to have good wine for a good price. That's the only thing he wants. But at his back, he has a quality department that is making a hard time, asking for all quality requirements that are really difficult to maintain for the supplier. And there's also logistic problems, of course. A buyer is really looking for a supplier that is not giving him problems. If there is a problem with the wine, the supplier needs to come with a solution. And the reason why they ask for EFS or BRC is because they're scared. They're scared. A lot of things can go wrong with wine. It's amazing. If they have this kind of quality requirements, they know that they can also fill in papers, because that's also not sometimes a big problem. When you're a buyer and you can select the best wine in the world, but if you can't receive it in your country, it's hell. A lot of things can go wrong with bulk wines. I had containers that fell from a boat. I had a supplier that forgot to put a seal on the tank. Awful things, but these things happen. So buyers look for somebody that they can trust, that they have a solution when there is a problem, that they have, an answer.
Can I ask you, what for you makes a good supplier to work with? What are the things that makes you happy about a producer when they offer you? Can you give some examples of what a good producer should be doing for you?
Different solutions, because this is what the buyers are looking for. It's not only a matter of logistic, also not only a matter of prices, but news. So I can tell you that two weeks ago I was talking to the buyer of a really big chain in Switzerland, and they were asking me something different from a Primitivo, but from Puglia. I arrived there already with the ideas, because I knew this. Because of the prices, you can also give a different solution, in this case with a lower price, and news. It's really a long time. I think 10 years, at least 5, but 10. I think more that Primitivo is running really fast. Now people maybe can ask for something different. Malvasia Nera, Suso Maniello, or I don't know, others, okay? Negramaro or whatever. And these now cost less. It's a different taste, a different packaging, a different everything, but always from Puglia, always from Italy. This is a solution.
So, and do you think there's more opportunities in a way for people, well, for all three of you really, to act as kind of to come with solutions? So you are the consultant who can, the middleman who can, or the middle person who can.
And the best thing is, we were buyers, so we know already what they want really well, and this is really our experience is gold today, no, for us.
Well, innovation is very important in the wine industry, of course, and but in bulk wine it's a little bit more difficult to do this innovation. This is some. He also has a buyer also has a marketing department that wants to have his wines, the wines in the newspapers, and you also need to have wine that wine writers can use. So yeah, it's important.
And do you think that the role of the broker or the role of the consultant is becoming more relevant again? Because there was a time when supermarkets seemed to, there was a lot of brokers around 10, 12 years ago, and then supermarkets started going direct to the producer and cutting out the middleman. Do you think that's changed?
In that way that the buyer is taking that role also at the same time, yes. Yeah. So we are also consultants and buyers at the same time now, much more than 10 years ago. So the broker part, I mean, as a broker, their jobs has also changed during this period of time as well. They do different things than I used to do 10 years ago. Yeah.
But if there are questions from the floor, please put your hand up as we go along, rather than wait until the end. But so bear that in mind. Yeah, because just picking up on that, because I mean, there are now, I suppose, particularly when your e-commerce background, there are so many more channels of the market now as well that can offer solutions for both buyers and producers, can't they? Can you just give us an idea with your e-commerce hat on about the kind of opportunities that then potentially offers producers in terms of what perhaps wasn't there, say, 10 years ago, in terms of what they can do with online?
Yeah. There are a lot of opportunities today, yes, compared to 10 years ago. I don't know really what to tell you, but
In terms of more exclusive labels, more bespoke labels, you know, or equally, is there more of a challenge in terms of transparency of prices? I mean, has it changed because now people can go online and they can search pricing a lot easier? The consumer's got more power to decide what wines they want to have.
the more you have in your stock, the more you sell. This is always like this. So this is for sure something. About the suppliers, the question is more about the suppliers. Okay. So yes, important is to choose the right e-commerce for you. Because not only the wineries are okay with to sell in a particular e-commerce. So I think that there are different ways to sell in e-commerce. I can tell you that there are really big e-commerce that are selling only on flash sales. In example, so if you are a really famous brand, it's not so okay for you to use the flash sales because you are already known. So it's more important about the position of the price. So you have to choose another kind of e-commerce. If you are a really small winery that want to be known more in Europe, there are 2-3 different flash sales e-commerce that will be really useful for you because that is an advertisement for you for free at the end. So yeah, it depends on what you want.
Just turning the conversation back, you mentioned sustainability before, and I know obviously in some markets it's been a lot more of an issue for a longer period of time than it has in perhaps other markets. Now, obviously, with Sweden being one of the more trailblazers, if that's the right word, can you perhaps explain a little bit more? You mentioned earlier about sustainability and producers having the right certificates and the right. Can you explain a little bit more about where you think that's going to go? And does that mean that, you know, looking around a trading floor like this, say in 5 years' time, you know, if producers don't have that credibility, then they may not be fit for purpose to be here? I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. It's something that everyone needs to have, and within 5 years, you're not. This is. you have nothing to do here if you don't have it, because you won't sell. This is a hygiene factor, and it will become. And if you don't have this, maybe for some markets where this is not important, then it's where you have your business. And I can't tell you today which markets that will end up being, but I know my market by far the best, and we already have a very sophisticated program for how the monopoly is asking every time they come out with new tenders for us to try to submit with new wines to. Most of them are about sustainable certificates, especially from risk countries like Italy, like Chile, Argentina, South Africa, etc. You have to have like fair trade, fair for life, etc. Certifications. But also it's all about sustainable packaging at the same time. But that is more challenge for us as a buyer than a supplier, though. Yeah.
So can I ask you, is that something that you're, as a consultant, having to become a lot more informed and knowledgeable about in terms of?
Well, it used to be cheaper to get a container from South Africa to Belgium than a truck from the south of France. So with all these price differences now, this is going to be, because logistics is getting has been so expensive, and it's still expensive. Huh? We're still not there on the same prices of 2019. Huh? So yes, transport is important, because if you have a market of cheap wines that are coming from South Africa, and you compare them with French wine, and logistics is getting such an important role, then yeah.
And
this might change it, might change the idea, because a buyer, at a certain point, there are buyers that need Chardonnay, but sometimes it doesn't matter where it comes from. Does it come from around the world? So this might change. People might change. I need a Chardonnay, and I will not tell you anymore where it comes from. Come from somewhere in the world.
But picking up more on the sustainability side,
Yeah.
there may that Chardonnay though still will need to have the right certification.
Yeah.
So as I'm saying, for you and your
Yeah.
role, are you having to think a lot more about the producers that you're working with, and about making sure that they have all the right preparation, and they're thinking that way? And
yeah. But it's not only organic, but about organic wines, but also most of the wines I work with are not organic. But we also ask them to reduce sulfur. We don't accept a certain amount of, a lot less sulfur than it's allowed in the world. So these kind of things, and bulk wine anyway is a little bit more sustainable, because a bottle, you can reuse a bottle 7 times. Yeah. And of course, it's the difference between one truck is 18,000 bottles, and one container of bulk makes 25,000 bottles.
Yeah.
So.
Can I ask you the same question in terms of the sustainability, and where you think that is going to sit in terms of both from a buyer's point of view and also from a supplier?
Yeah, there are 2 points, I think. One is the trend, because there is also a trend that is nothing to do with why we are looking for that. And then the most important thing, that is exactly why we are looking at that. There are different things to look at. There is the transport, because if you have lighter glasses, everything is more efficient. is also for the e-commerce is really important to have light versions of also important wines with the glass light version of the glass of the bottle, because in e-commerce a big part of the cost is the shipment. So the less is the weight, the better is. And the same thing is with all of the others part of the packaging. So yes, it's really key today, and also for the prices.
And then do you get
Cost.
And for yourself, I guess, would you get to the stage where it wouldn't be practical for you to be working with a certain producer who's not making these changes? For someone like yourself,
I push them to change, yeah, every day. This is not easy, in particular with the suppliers from Puglia that normally so far they were bottling in really heavy glasses for the China market or the north of Europe, etc. So it's important for them to understand that this is changing and they must change. This is important for all of the process.
and do you think that, because obviously, you know, the massive market like China, and I know a lot of the tariffs and issues in Australia, it shows that the dangers of getting too attracted by one market. But do you think that the industry as a whole needs to think about sustainability from a global perspective, and for those producers who are working a lot in China, who are asking for heavier bottles, that they either stop doing that for the sake of what they're supposed to be doing, because obviously they're not going to get a sustainability accreditation if they are still doing that. Do you think that's going to change the market in terms of which producers are going to be prepared to work in China in the future?
No, it's really important for them to change, but they are not. The market is not ready at the moment. The Chinese market, in particular, while all of the others, yes, I see that everywhere you can talk about that, and they understand why, and they answer, okay, yes, let's do that, let's try, and we'll see, because this is important. Yeah.
Just aware of our time. If there are questions, please put your hand up and we can ask as we go along. Just, you mentioned right at the beginning about some of the trends that you come here, you're looking for trends. Can I ask you, in terms of where you see the buying demands in terms of the styles of wine, you know, more fresh, lighter alcohol, which grape varieties? Can you give an idea of where you think the styles are going to develop in the next 2 years?
Yeah, they are looking for that, but not only, also in news. So yes, and I can tell you that Tuscany has the most demand in general, abroad also.
Why Tuscany?
In general, Tuscany. So yeah, almost every area in Tuscany. Important is that Tuscany is on the label, the name Tuscany, and this is working very well everywhere. And I see Abruzzo with a really great potential, not expressed so far because of the quantity, quality, most of red wines they have, and the price. And the structure of the wines is really, really important. So I think that could be the next Puglia in the next years. I think so.
And outside Italy, any thoughts outside Italy?
Sorry?
Outside of Italy, any thoughts?
Yeah, also, yeah. But we have so many, in Italy, but Sicilia did it already, so it's important. It's a circle, no? But if you ask me for something really new, it could be a trend. It could be Abruzzo, I think.
Okay.
That's my...
Inge, for you?
Well, what I think is like the overuse of chips, and this is something that is ruining so much wine, and it's also changing. You have a lot of regions in Spain that are still using so much wood. This is not accepted anymore in my market. This is done.
And in terms of grape varieties or regions, do you have any thoughts on where you're seeing demand?
I think that the last 3 years there is a little bit. There hasn't been a lot of things on innovation in supermarkets. They were already happy to have the market they had at that moment. So. There is a possibility for wines that are not Sauvignon or Chardonnay, but they still have to be fresh, juicy. Wine has to be juicy again.
Drinkable.
And we don't drink wood anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, wine is like music many times. You can do a lot of comparisons here. We go through different stages in music history, at the same time also with the wine history. What do we listen to? What is the popular songs? What is the popular wines? We brought it up. You brought it up now. It's we bring it back to usiness in the wines. That's for sure. But I also see another direction for another type of consumers who just loves these heavy oak Chardonnays from California, for instance. Same thing with heavy oak Pinot Noirs from the same region, selling like crazy in many markets. Look at the brand Bread and Butter. That's a trend. You can't deny that. At the same time, we have the opposite type of wines, super high drinkability. You can take something like Pais from Chile that everyone thought was a really bad grape, mainly for blending for the most low entry-level wines available. Now it's getting trendy. Now everyone wants Pais. The same thing with Cinsault. Cinsault, south of France, 10 years ago was considered to be one of the worst grapes from France. Now everyone wants on Cinsault. I see, believe it or not, I see some similarities here also in South Africa with Pinotage. Yeah. So, yeah, it's right now. It's actually super interesting. It's a super interesting time when it comes to trends right now, I think. Yeah.
And then there are also the big sweet red wines as well, the Apothic Reds, and which is again. Actually, one area we haven't talked about actually is low alcohol or no alcohol. I mean, there's been a focus here as well. Do you think that's a trend that, as buyers, you're also having to now look more at no alcohol or 0.5% wine solutions, or do you think it's not going to become a big category?
I have my own opinion, of course. I hear a lot a lot of people are talking about this. I'm not hearing anything about from the buyers. Really, how to say, they are not asking me directly. No, they are only talking, and what I think is that is not wine. So we're talking about another thing. So yeah, if you are asking me low alcohol, it means to me 11.5. That is the lowest to be wine. Otherwise, yes, we are talking about other stuff.
Yeah. Well, every supermarket needs to have now wine with 0% alcohol. And this is also marketing and a consumer that asks for it, but sales are not big. So they can't have a big shelf with the alcoholized wines. That's not going to be the case. But here in Amsterdam, I saw for the first time a shop with only wines with 0 alcohol. So, yeah, in some countries it's gonna happen.
Actually, interesting with the UK as well. As people are aware, there's a big change to the duty in the UK, and they're going to have wines above 13.5% are going to have a higher duty of 14.5%. So a lot of new world countries are going to have a big increase in duty costs to work in the UK potentially in the next couple of years, but that's another factor. Just aware of our time. If there are any questions, please ask. Oh, right at the back there, yeah.
Yes, hello, thank you.
You brought your own microphone. Well done.
Yeah, I came prepared. I was just wondering, between the three of you, if you already see changes in the supply chain, because I heard both of you say that sales in supermarkets are down, but sales in wine on a global scale are up, and I'm betting that is in e-commerce, but also direct sales to restaurants are opening up their direct channels to consumers. Is that something that you see as a growing trend?
Well, we are operating on different markets, so I can only speak for my own market, which is mainly Sweden. And we never had a complete lockdown during the pandemic, but we were selling maybe 25% of normal volumes, normal volumes. Now, this year, when everything is back to more or less normal, it's been a crazy year. We reached our budget already in September for 2022. But now, at the same time, we see a decrease again. And that has mainly to do about the situation in the world with inflation, increased interest rates, etc. You have less money in your pocket than you had 6 months ago. So this is something we have to be very aware of and be ready to tackle.
Well, in supermarkets, they are around 10 to 15% less. And now wine is seen a little bit as not a necessity anymore. So, supermarkets, they can see who buys what. And they see now families that don't buy wine anymore. Do they all go to e-commerce? I don't think so. Because the price level of e-commerce is higher than in the supermarkets for most wines, yes.
Yeah, I think that we have to look at the data better. I think that, yes, supermarkets and e-commerce are going down this year, but compared to the last 2 years, if you look at before, they are selling well as 2019 or better. And regarding the restaurants, it's completely normal that now they are increasing the sales a lot, because in particular in Italy, in Spain, we are people that really like to stay out, and we were in prison for 2 years, so now it's really normal that we want to go out and spend a lot of money outside, and that's also because e-commerce and supermarkets are going a bit down compared to the last 2 years. So I think that it's important to read this data also in this way.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, just we've got time for just one final question, which just if we have this conversation, say in 5 years' time, what would you think would be the most important thing the most pressing or challenging issue for buyers say in 5 years' time, in terms of what will it be the same as it is now, or where do you think the bigger pressures are going to come from?
I don't want to start.
You want to start? Okay. Okay. If we're having this conversation in 5 years, do you think the situation, like we've just talked about, would be the same, or do you imagine what would be the biggest challenges for buyers over the next 5 years?
How can I answer this? Since it is impossible. It happened everything in the last 3 years. So.
Okay, well, it's an impossible
No,
question.
I want to be positive.
It'll be your challenge to come to meet it. So.
I think that everything will be more stable.
We hope.
Must be, yes, like this, because otherwise it's... Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
I hope it's going to be stable.
We've got enough to worry about today, to worry about what's going to happen in 5 years.
I'm sure we will never return like it was in 19. We woke up in a new world, so we have to adapt to what people really want.
Definitely.
And it's the consumer that's going to decide, not we.
Excellent, thank you. Well, that's a really nice way to finish. Thank you, and thanks for your time. Obviously, we've got 2-3 hours more of the fair to go out and take some of these learnings and listen to some of the producers out there. But thanks everyone on the panel, and thank everybody for your time, and enjoy the rest of the fair. Cheers.